The story begins right now, and trust me, you're not going to believe how fast everything changed. Picture this. You've poured your heart into a job for years, carrying the weight of your team on your shoulders while your boss barely noticed. Then one day, the old boss walks out the door, and in walks someone who already knows your name, your struggles, and your Sunday mornings at church. What would you do if the person who could make or break your future suddenly needed you more than you needed her? Stick with me until the end, because this real-life story of "Train Your New Boss" is going to hit you right in the heart. If you've ever felt overlooked, underappreciated, or like life was testing your patience, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss stories that remind us we're all just one act of kindness away from changing someone's world. My name is Alex Rivera. At 34, I was the quiet backbone of Thompson Logistics, the guy who showed up early, stayed late, and somehow kept the warehouse running smoothly even when suppliers failed and deadlines screamed. For 7 years I reported to Mr. Thompson, a stern, old-school man who believed praise was a weakness and micromanagement was leadership. He attended the same neighborhood church as my late mother, which was the only reason he tolerated my occasional requests for family leave when my younger sister Mia was sick. But Thompson was retiring, and the rumor mill said his replacement was already chosen, a woman named Sarah Bennett. "She's a friend from church," he told me in his final week, clapping my shoulder a little too hard. "Smart, faithful, but green in this world. Show her the ropes, Alex. Don't let me down." The morning Sarah arrived, the entire office buzzed with curiosity. She walked in wearing a modest navy blouse, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun, carrying a small cross necklace that caught the fluorescent lights. She looked nothing like the cutthroat executives we feared. At 41, Sarah had spent the last 15 years raising 2 kids alone after losing her husband in a car accident, volunteering at the church food pantry, and managing community outreach programs. Corporate logistics. That was a foreign language. When Mr. Thompson introduced us, her warm brown eyes met mine with genuine recognition. "Alex Rivera," she said softly, "your mother used to brag about you in prayer circle." I'm so glad to finally meet the man behind the stories. That first week tested every ounce of patience I had. Sarah was kind, painfully kind. She asked questions that revealed how little she understood about supply chains, vendor negotiations, or the brutal quarterly targets. The team whispered behind her back. "She's going to sink us," one driver muttered. Deadlines loomed, and Sarah froze during her first big client call, her voice trembling as she tried to explain delivery delays. I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear I'd felt when my mother passed and I suddenly became guardian to Mia, juggling hospital bills and school fees on a single salary. I wanted to walk away. Instead, something in me remembered my mother's voice. "Help the one God puts in front of you, mijo. Even when it's hard." So I started training my new boss. Every afternoon after the others left, I sat with Sarah in the small conference room. We went over spreadsheets, route optimizations, and how to read the frustration in a driver's voice before it became a resignation letter. She took notes like a student, her pen flying across the page, but progress was slow. One evening, after a particularly rough day where a major shipment got delayed and clients screamed, Sarah broke down. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she confessed, "I took this job because the church board thought it would be good for me to step out in faith. But I feel like an imposter. My kids need stability, and I'm terrified I'll ruin everything Thompson built." I told her my own story that night. How I'd almost quit 2 years earlier when Mia's medical bills piled up and Thompson denied my raise. How I stayed because I believed hard work and quiet integrity would eventually matter. Sarah listened like no boss ever had. She shared her grief over losing her husband, how faith kept her going even when loneliness felt suffocating. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. We laughed about awkward church potlucks and cried about the weight of being the strong one for our families. By the end of that week, something had shifted. Sarah started making small decisions on her own, approving overtime for a struggling single dad on the team, negotiating better terms with a difficult vendor using the empathy I taught her to pair with numbers. The team noticed. Productivity climbed. But life has a way of testing the lessons we think we've learned. 2 weeks into Sarah's tenure, disaster struck. A major client threatened to pull a six-figure contract because of repeated errors in our tracking system, errors that had started before Sarah arrived but now landed on her desk. The board called an emergency meeting. Whispers grew louder. Maybe Thompson's church friend wasn't cut out for this. That night, Sarah looked exhausted, the weight of single motherhood and new leadership crushing her. I stayed late again, helping her trace the problem to outdated software and a vendor miscommunication. We worked until midnight, ordering takeout and pushing through. "Why are you helping me like this?" she asked at one point, voice cracking. "You could have let me fail and maybe gotten my job." "Because someone once told me that real leadership isn't about climbing over people," I replied. "It's about lifting them up. My mom taught me that. And maybe I needed to remember it too." The next morning, my phone rang at 6:15 a.m. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. Her voice was desperate, shaky. "Alex, I need you. The client is coming in person at 9. I froze last night after you left. I don't know if I can face them." I could hear her kids in the background, one asking if mommy was okay. My heart clenched. I told her I'd be there. I rushed in, suit rumpled, carrying the detailed report we'd built together. When the client executives arrived, sharp suits, impatient glares, Sarah stood tall. She opened with honesty, the way we practiced, acknowledging the mistakes, outlining the fixes I'd helped design, and promising better communication rooted in respect. I stood beside her, chiming in only when needed, watching her grow into the role in real time. The client didn't just stay, they expanded the contract. By the end of the meeting, Sarah was smiling through happy tears. Later that afternoon, she pulled me into her office. "You didn't just train me on logistics, Alex. You trained me on courage, on grace under pressure. I was drowning, and you threw me a lifeline without expecting anything back." She gave me the promotion and raise Thompson had denied for years, but more than that, she gave me partnership. We became a team that led with both competence and compassion. Months later, the whole office felt different. Turnover dropped. People stayed because they felt seen. Sarah's kids started calling me Uncle Alex, and I brought Mia to church picnics where laughter healed old wounds. That desperate morning call became the turning point, not just for Sarah's career, but for my faith in people. We all have moments when we feel like imposters. We all carry burdens we think no one else understands. But when we choose to train, to lift, to stay, even when it's our boss who needs saving, something beautiful happens. We rise together. If this story touched you, if it reminded you to be the kind of person who shows up when someone calls desperate, please smash that like button and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you catch every story about ordinary people doing extraordinary things through kindness, resilience, and a little faith. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to train your boss, or been the one who needed lifting? Share it below. I read every single one. Remember, the best chapters of your life might begin the moment you decide to help the person the world least expects you to lift up. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story. God bless.